My name is Calla Solís, 22 years old. The smell of iron and detergent always clings to our house. Dad says it's because he likes things clean. I think it's because nothing ever gets washed away, just scrubbed until it shines enough to pretend the stain isn't there. That night, when Mom called everyone to the dining room, I could already tell something was coming. Calla, can you come downstairs? Her voice was careful, polite in that way she used when she wanted peace more than honesty. I wheeled down the ramp Dad had built himself after my accident. He'd measured it precisely, muttering the whole time about how it ruined the look of the porch. Every time I touched the railing, I could still hear the hammer hitting wood, his frustration trapped inside the screws. The table was set, candles half burned, Mom's favorite beige placemats, the ones she only used when something big was about to be said. Victoria sat across from me, perfectly postured, one manicured hand resting on her round belly. Her husband Kyle was beside her, scrolling his phone, pretending to be uninterested. Austin, my younger brother, was at the end of the table, hood up, headphones dangling, too tired to play referee. "What's going on?" I asked. Mom didn't meet my eyes. "We need to talk about the 15th. "My graduation?" I said. "What about it?" Victoria gave a sympathetic smile that never reached her eyes. "That's actually what this is about," she said sweetly. "I've decided to have my baby shower that day." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "The venue I want, Scottsdale Resort, only had that weekend available," she continued, adjusting her diamond bracelet so it caught the light. "And all my friends can make it. It's perfect timing." "Perfect timing?" I repeated, my voice climbing. "It's my graduation, Vic. You've known the date for months." Dad slammed his palm on the table so hard the coffee cups jumped. "Watch your tone, young lady. Your sister's having her first child. That's more important than some school ceremony." "Some ceremony." The words burned. "I've worked 4 years for that ceremony. I made Dean's List 3 times. I have a job waiting in Portland." "Family should be more important than any of that," Mom said quietly, twisting her wedding ring. "I'm not missing graduation," I said, steadying my breath. "I'm sorry, Vic, but you'll have to pick another day or do it without me." Her eyes filled instantly with tears. "I can't believe you're being so selfish," she whispered, voice trembling. "I was there for you after your accident." "You visited me twice in 6 months," I said. "Once you spent the whole time complaining about the hospital cafeteria." Kyle sighed, sliding his arm around her. "Come on, Calla. It's just one day. You can walk another year." "It's not just one day," I snapped. "It's everything I fought for." Dad's face darkened. "You'll go to your sister's shower, or there will be consequences." "Like what?" I asked. "You gonna ground me? I pay rent here." "How dare you talk to me like that? How dare you treat me like I'm broken?" The words hung in the air. Austin's headphones were suddenly off. Mom's eyes were wet. Victoria's hand rubbed slow circles over her stomach. The image of patience. "I'm done," I said, pushing away from the table. "If you want to support me, great. If not, stay home. But I'm not missing my graduation." Dad's voice followed me down the hall. "This isn't over, Calla." I locked my door, chest tight. On the wall hung my cap and gown, the tassel a deep crimson that caught the glow from my lamp. For a moment, I let myself breathe. I'd survived a car crash at 16, a drunk driver, a best friend gone in an instant, and the rest of my life redefined by wheels. I'd rebuilt myself from metal and muscle and grit. I wasn't going to let anyone take this from me. That night, I called my best friend Denise. "They're unbelievable," she said through the phone. "You're still going, right?" "Absolutely," I whispered, staring at my gown. I didn't survive all that to miss this. The next week felt like walking through invisible smoke. Every meal was quieter. Mom left baby shower invitations on my desk like guilt traps. Dad muttered about loyalty and respect. Victoria texted me daily with crying emojis and messages like, "You've ruined my moment." I started sleeping with headphones on. The night before graduation, I was ironing my gown, the faint scent of starch mixing with nerves. Music played softly from my laptop when Dad appeared in the doorway, his shadow stretching across the carpet. "Last chance," he said. "For what?" "Come to the shower tomorrow. Be part of the family." "Dad, I love her, but I'm not missing this. She picked that date to punish me, and you know it." He stepped closer. "You're being selfish. Family comes first." "It's my college graduation. I've worked 4 years for this." "I don't care. Your sister needs you." "No," I said, heart pounding. "I'm graduating tomorrow. Nothing's stopping me." He smiled then, a small, cruel twist of his mouth. "We'll see about that." He turned and walked away. Moments later came the sound, metal on concrete, hard. Rhythmic. Wrong. Dad, I called, wheeling out of my room, my pulse hammering. Down the hall, through the kitchen. Mom stood frozen by the garage door, her hand trembling against her lips. I pushed past her. He was there, in the harsh overhead light, standing above my wheelchair. My real chair, the one I'd saved 2 years for, with a carbon frame and custom back support. A sledgehammer gleamed in his hands. The first blow had already bent the frame. The second crushed the wheel. The third tore the seat open, foam spilling like organs. "Dad, stop!" I screamed. He turned, sweat shining on his temples. "If you can't get to graduation," he said evenly, "you'll have to come to the shower instead." For a heartbeat, everything stopped. Then sound rushed back, the tick of the garage clock, Mom's quiet sob, my own breathing breaking apart. "You destroyed it," I whispered. "That was mine." "It's just a chair," he said, wiping his forehead. "You'll get another one when you do what's right." I pulled my phone from my pocket, hands shaking. "What are you doing?" Mom gasped. "Calling the police." Dad's eyes widened. "You wouldn't dare." "Watch me." The 911 operator answered as I forced my voice steady. "Yes, I'd like to report a crime. My father just destroyed my wheelchair with a sledgehammer." The words sounded surreal even to me. Mom started crying harder. Dad paced, muttering about respect, about how the world had turned his daughter against him. Somewhere outside, a neighbor's dog barked, maybe sensing the chaos inside our walls. 20 minutes later, red and blue lights flashed across the driveway. I had already taken photos, pulled up my receipts, and exported the Ring doorbell footage, an instinct I didn't know I had. The video showed everything. Dad taking the chair from my room, dragging it into the garage, the first swing, the second, the final one where foam exploded. When the officers knocked, I didn't feel fear, just a numb kind of calm. I'd already lost too much to be afraid of losing him too. "Ma'am, are you the one who called?" the older officer asked gently. "Yes," I said, holding up my phone. "This is the proof." Behind me, Dad's voice roared, "She's lying! It's my property!" But even as he said it, I saw his reflection in the glass window, shoulders heaving, eyes darting to the sledgehammer, still lying on the ground. The younger officer bent to pick it up, turning it in his hands. "Sir, we're going to need you to step aside." Mom whispered his name once, "Robert." But he didn't move. The older cop's tone hardened. "Sir." Finally, Dad stepped back. The world blurred for a moment. The air smelled like sweat and engine oil and the sharp ozone of police radios. My stomach twisted, but underneath the fear was something new, relief. For the first time in years, someone else had seen the truth, and they weren't pretending it was okay. The police report took 2 hours. By the time the officers left, the night outside had gone silent again, heavy with that strange stillness that only follows chaos. Mom sat at the kitchen table with her hands clasped, whispering prayers under her breath. Dad's voice still echoed in my head, the way it cracked when they read him his rights. He wasn't arrested on the spot, just detained for questioning. I gave my statement, showed the receipts, the video, and even the texts Victoria had sent about the baby shower, hoping the officers could see this wasn't a random outburst. It was years of control reaching its breaking point. Denise and her boyfriend Jordan arrived minutes after the squad car left. Jordan crouched beside me, eyes wide at the wreckage. "He did all that?" "Yeah," I said, voice flat, "because I wanted to go to my own graduation." He exhaled, shaking his head. "That's messed up. But I know a guy at a medical supply store. He can loan you a chair for tomorrow. It won't be fancy, but it'll work." The relief hit me like air after drowning. By sunrise, I'd barely slept. I could hear Mom crying through her door, whispering to someone on the phone, probably Victoria. I didn't want to know what they were saying. My backup chair creaked with every turn, but I didn't care. I got dressed, pinned my hair, and slipped into my gown. Jordan's friend showed up right on time with a van. "It's not your custom one," he said, helping me transfer, "but it rolls." "That's all I need," I said, forcing a smile. When I arrived at the auditorium, the morning light filtered through the tall glass windows, soft and golden. The stage shimmered with flowers and banners, the sound of hundreds of families cheering echoing across the hall. For once, I didn't look for mine in the crowd. When they called my name, Calla Solís, Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, magna cum laude, the applause that rose from Denise and Jordan felt like thunder. I rolled across that stage, head high, and smiled for the camera. For the first time, I felt untouchable. Afterward, we celebrated at my favorite brunch spot in Tempe. The smell of syrup and coffee felt like freedom. Denise scrolled through her phone and hesitated. Calla, you need to see this. On her screen was Victoria's Instagram post, a picture of her surrounded by pink balloons and GIF, captioned, "Some people choose pride over family. I choose love. Please pray for my father, who was unfairly taken from us on a day that should have been joyful." Hundreds of comments, but they weren't what she expected. Wait, she ruined her sister's graduation day for a baby shower? Your dad destroyed her wheelchair? That's abuse. Team Calla, all the way. Jordan laughed under his breath. Guess the internet finally sided with the right sister. But the fallout had only begun. By the next morning, the ring footage I'd sent for the report had somehow leaked. Maybe someone from the neighborhood group chat shared it. Maybe one of the officers mentioned it. Either way, the video was everywhere. Dad dragging the wheelchair into the garage, the hammer, the sound of impact. The comments were vicious. Bank executive destroys disabled daughter's wheelchair. Vice president of Wells Fargo accused of abuse. Mom's book club disbanded overnight. Dad's boss called, demanding a meeting. Austin texted me from home. He's suspended. HR is investigating. Mom's freaking out. Victoria's crying nonstop. I didn't respond. I just stared at the text until my screen dimmed. That night, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. "Ms. Solís, this is Lisa Hernandez, Assistant District Attorney for Maricopa County." My heart stuttered. "Yes?" "We've reviewed your case. Because the property destroyed was adaptive mobility equipment, it qualifies under enhanced disability abuse statutes. You're entitled to pursue criminal charges and restitution." Her voice was calm, professional, but beneath it, I could hear conviction. "What your father did wasn't just property damage. It was an attempt to take away your independence. That matters." I thanked her quietly, promising to follow up. When I hung up, my hands were trembling, not from fear this time, but from the weight of being believed. The next morning, Mom showed up at Denise's apartment. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair unbrushed. "Calla, please," she said before I could close the door. "You can't press charges. Your father's reputation, the family's name. Think of what people will say." I stared at her, almost laughing. "Mom, he smashed my wheelchair. You think I care what people will say?" "He's sorry," she whispered. "He was angry. You know how he gets." That's the problem. We've all known how he gets, and we keep excusing it. For a moment, her mask cracked. "He's still your father." "Then he should have acted like one." She left in tears. I didn't follow. That evening, Denise found a GoFundMe online titled, "Help Calla Get Back on Her Wheels." It had already raised over $4,000. I hadn't started it. Someone else had. At first, I felt uneasy. Accepting help felt like weakness. But then Jordan said, "People are trying to show you that what happened wasn't right. Let them." So I did. By Monday, everything exploded. The local news aired the video. National outlets picked it up. Dad's photo was plastered across social media under headlines like, "Bank VP faces disability abuse allegations." I didn't feel vindicated. I felt tired. Austin called that night. "It's chaos here," he said. "Mom's hiding in her room. Dad's been suspended officially. Victoria's losing followers on her influencer account. Grandma saw the news." "Grandma?" "Yeah, she called Mom and said she's reconsidering her will." That stopped me cold. Our grandmother, the quiet matriarch who'd always stayed neutral, had just taken sides. "Calla," Austin continued, his voice low, "Dad's blaming you for everything. Says you destroyed his life." I sighed. "He destroyed mine first." There was silence on the line. Then he said softly, "For what it's worth, I'm proud of you." When we hung up, I stared at the ceiling, the shadows moving like slow waves. Somewhere between fear and freedom was this strange new feeling, justice. But justice always comes with echoes. The next day, my phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from strangers, reporters, disability advocates, even lawyers offering pro bono help. One DM stood out. "What your father did is a hate crime. We're rallying for policy reform." I didn't know what to make of it. I hadn't meant to start anything. I just wanted to go to graduation. That evening, Jordan knocked on my door holding takeout. "You okay?" "I think so." He nodded toward the muted TV where a headline scrolled, "Public outcry after viral wheelchair destruction video." "You started a movement," he said softly. "Or a mess," I murmured. He smiled. "Sometimes both lead to change." That night, I lay awake, replaying everything. The clang of metal, the police lights, Victoria's tears, Mom's voice breaking on the phone. And beneath all that noise, one clear thought emerged. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something none of us could undo. 6 weeks after graduation, I sat in the stiff wooden chair of the courtroom, my hands folded tightly in my lap. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant and coffee, a strange blend of order and exhaustion. Dad sat across the aisle in a gray suit, thinner than I remembered, his wedding ring gone. Mom was beside him, her face pale, lips pressed into a trembling line. Victoria sat behind them with Kyle, her belly now heavy, eyes hollow from weeks of bad sleep and worse publicity. Austin sat next to me, silent but solid. When the judge entered, the room fell into the kind of silence that cuts through bone. Case number 5816, the clerk read, State of Arizona versus Robert Solis. Hearing our last name like that, his and mine, felt like being torn in half. The prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney Lisa Hernandez, stood and presented the footage: the garage, the hammer, the splintered wheelchair. The courtroom gasped at the first clang of metal, echoing through the speakers. Dad kept his jaw clenched, staring straight ahead. This wasn't an accident, Hernandez said firmly. It was an act of control, a calculated attempt to strip a disabled adult of her autonomy. This is not a family dispute. This is abuse. When she played the clip of me calling 911, my voice shaking but steady, I had to look away. I didn't want to relive that night. I didn't want to see Mom frozen in the doorway again. Dad's lawyer, a man named Thornton, argued discipline, misunderstanding, stress. My client, he said, was under immense emotional strain. His daughter's refusal to attend a family event was seen as disrespect. He reacted poorly, but his intent was not malicious. I could feel my nails digging into my palms. Then came the moment that changed everything. The judge, Maria Santos, leaned forward and said quietly, "Intent does not erase harm, Mr. Thornton. This court protects the rights of disabled individuals to live free from coercion and retaliation. What Mr. Solis did was not a lapse in judgment. It was cruelty." The gavel came down. The verdict: guilty on all counts of property destruction and aggravated abuse of a disabled person. Sentence: 2 years probation, 400 hours of community service at the Arizona Disability Advocacy Center, full restitution, and a restraining order, 500 feet from me at all times. The words hung heavy in the air. Mom broke first, covering her mouth, sobbing quietly. Dad didn't move. Only when the bailiff approached did he finally speak. "You've destroyed this family," he said, not looking at me. "No," I whispered, my voice trembling but clear. "You did." Outside the courthouse, the sun blazed white against the concrete steps. Reporters waited, microphones in hand, but I walked right past them. That's when Victoria stepped in front of me, her eyes rimmed red. "I hope you're happy," she hissed. "Dad's a felon, Mom's a wreck, my marriage is over, all because you couldn't let one day go." I exhaled slowly. "You think I wanted any of this? You chose that date, Vic. You made it a battle." "I just wanted attention for once," she shot back. "You get all the sympathy. Everyone pities you. I wanted something that was mine." Her words hit like a slap. I stared at her, realizing for the first time that her cruelty came from emptiness, not malice. "Then maybe stop trying to take what's mine," I said softly. Kyle stepped forward awkwardly. "Vic, let's go." She turned away, shoulders shaking. I didn't follow. Later that evening, I sat in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by boxes. The house smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and dust. Austin was helping me pack, folding my clothes neatly, pretending not to be emotional. "I'm leaving for Portland next week," I told him. He nodded. "I figured I'd do the same." "Don't let them guilt you for it." "I won't." He hesitated, then added quietly, "Grandma sent a letter. She changed her will." I looked up. "What do you mean?" "She's splitting everything equally now, and there's a scholarship fund in your name for students with disabilities who study tech design." I blinked. "She did that?" "Yeah," he said, smiling faintly. "Guess she's Team Calla too." We both laughed softly, but there was sadness beneath it. Mom showed up just as we were sealing the last box. She looked older, her hair streaked with gray that hadn't been there before. "Calla, please don't leave like this," she said, voice cracking. "We can fix it. Therapy, counseling, anything." I stood still for a moment, looking at her, the woman who'd spent years avoiding confrontation, smoothing over pain instead of facing it. "Mom, I needed you 6 years ago, after the crash, when Dad started blaming me. You didn't protect me then." "I didn't know how," she whispered. "You could have learned." Tears welled in her eyes. I'm so sorry. I nodded, but there was no anger left, just exhaustion. I believe you, but I still have to go. She reached out and I let her hug me. For the first time in a long time, I hugged her back, but it felt like goodbye, not healing. That night, when everyone was asleep, I rolled down the ramp one last time. The wood creaked softly beneath me, just as it had the day he built it. For years, he'd called it an eyesore. To me, it was survival. I ran my hand along the railing, whispering a quiet thank you to whoever I'd been when I refused to give up. As I turned to leave, a porch light flicked on across the street. Mrs. Dempsey, our elderly neighbor, stood there in her robe, holding a cup of tea. She waved softly. "Proud of you, Calla," she called. "Took guts to stand up." I smiled, the lump in my throat too thick for words. The U-Haul was packed by sunrise. Denise and Jordan arrived with coffee, honking twice before coming up the drive. Austin helped load the last few boxes, then hugged me hard. "Text me when you get there," he said. "I will." As I climbed into the van, I looked back once more. The house glowed in the morning light. Ordinary, fragile, full of ghosts. For years, I'd thought I was trapped here. Now I understood. The door had always been open. I just had to choose to go through it. And for the first time, I did. Portland smelled like rain and possibility. I arrived 3 days after leaving Arizona, the mountains fading behind me, like the ending of a story I no longer needed to tell. My new apartment sat on the ground floor of a brick building with vines climbing the walls and a view of the river. It was small, but it was mine. The landlord had installed a smooth ramp and wide doorways before I moved in. When I wheeled through that door the first time, I cried, not out of sadness, but relief. The first week at Tech Vision Solutions was a blur of new faces, passwords, and meetings. My manager, Helen, greeted me with a handshake that didn't hesitate at the sight of my chair. "We've been excited to have you on board," she said warmly. "Your work on adaptive interfaces in college was outstanding. I think you'll fit right in." For the first time in years, I felt like I was being seen for my mind, not my limitations. I poured myself into the job, designing user experiences for accessibility-focused software. I learned the hard way that design wasn't just aesthetics, it was freedom. Denise helped me settle in before flying home. When she left, I stood at the window, watching her Uber disappear down the street, realizing that independence can feel both exhilarating and terrifying at once. Weeks passed. I decorated the apartment with plants, soft lamps, and framed photos from college. I even joined a local hand cycling club, racing along the Willamette River on Saturday mornings. The wind on my face, the sound of spinning gears, it reminded me I was alive, still moving forward. Then, one quiet afternoon in March, an envelope arrived. No return address. My name handwritten on the front. The penmanship was shaky, but familiar. Dad. I hesitated before opening it. Inside was a single page, creased and smudged, with what looked like fingerprints. "Calla, I know I don't have the right to contact you, but my attorney said a letter is allowed. I've been working at the Disability Advocacy Center for 10 months now. At first, I hated it. I thought it was punishment. But then I met people, kids who've been in chairs since birth, parents who'd give anything to see their children walk again, men my age who lost everything but still smile every day. They don't need pity. They need respect, the kind I never gave you. I used to think your wheelchair represented failure. Now I see it was the proof that you survived something I couldn't understand. I made your pain about me. I thought I was losing control of my family, but really, I'd already lost my compassion. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand." "You were never broken, Calla. I was." "Dad." I read it 3 times. Each word hit differently. The apology, the humility, the absence of excuses. I didn't cry. Not exactly. But something loosened inside me, like a thread finally untangling. I folded the letter and slipped it into a box with my degree, the last remnant of the girl who once needed their approval to feel whole. A few months later, Austin called. He'd finished his first year at the University of Colorado and sounded lighter than I'd ever heard him. "You wouldn't believe it," he said. "Mom's in therapy now. She says it's helping. And Grandma, she made it official. She created that scholarship in your name." I smiled. "Good. Maybe it'll help someone who needs it more than I ever did." He hesitated, then added, "Victoria had her baby, a girl." I froze. "She did?" "Yeah, she named her Calla." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My name, on her child. A gesture that could have been love or guilt or both. She's been in therapy too, Austin said. She asked me to tell you she's sorry, said she's trying to be better, for the baby. I stared at the letter from Dad still sitting on my desk. Maybe someday, I said quietly. Not yet. That night, I went out to the balcony with a mug of tea, watching the city lights shimmer on the river. The air was cool, damp, full of promise. Somewhere below, a group of cyclists passed, their laughter trailing behind like wind chimes. I thought of all the versions of myself I'd been. The girl crushed under guilt, the daughter who begged for approval, the woman who finally said no. Every one of them had carried me here. A week later, I entered my first hand cycling race. The morning air was electric with excitement, the sky streaked with gray and gold. As the race began, my arms burned, my breath came fast, but I pushed harder. With every turn of the wheels, I felt years of pain peeling away. When I crossed the finish line, I didn't care about the time. I cared that I was moving under my own power again. After the race, Helen handed me a water bottle and grinned. You're unstoppable, you know that? Maybe, I said, or maybe I just finally stopped letting people decide what I can't do. A few days later, I got another letter, this one official, sealed with a notary stamp. It was from Grandma's lawyer. Inside was the new will. My share of the estate had doubled, but there was a note in Grandma's handwriting at the bottom. You don't owe us forgiveness, only peace. Use this however you see fit. Or, if you'd rather, fund something that helps others like you design their own future. I sat with that note for hours. Money couldn't heal what had broken, but it could build something new. That evening, I opened a new account under the name the Solís Initiative, a fund for accessible design scholarships. I didn't tell anyone. Some choices are sacred because they're made in silence. Months later, I got a message from Austin. Victoria wants to meet you. Just coffee, no drama. She's nervous. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back. Maybe, not today. Forgiveness, I'd learned, wasn't a door you opened for others. It was a window you cracked open for yourself. 2 years after graduation, my life looked nothing like the one they'd planned for me. I had friends who saw me as Calla the developer, Calla the racer, Calla who makes incredible enchiladas. I had a boyfriend named Cameron who treated my chair like an extension of me, not a limitation. I had peace. One evening, Cameron asked, if you could change anything that happened, would you? I looked out at the sunset painting the sky in streaks of gold and blue. No, I said softly. Sometimes destruction clears the way for something better. He smiled, brushing his thumb over my hand. You're something better. I laughed quietly, leaning against him as the city lights flickered to life. When I think back to that night in the garage, the hammer, the shattering metal, I don't just hear the sound of loss anymore. I hear the moment everything started to change. So now I'll ask you what I asked myself that day. Have you ever had to choose between family expectations and your own dreams? What did you choose? And if you had the chance again, would you still choose yourself? Because I did, and I've never looked back.